Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on QNT. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about QNT. I'm going to start with this. The UK needs to lead in securities tokenization. Disruptive innovation can take time to gain a hold, but we finally reached an inflection point with the tokenization of securities. You know, like I always told you, everything takes time to build out, but now they're starting to realize how fast things are moving. Over the past year, I've seen an upsurge in financial services, institutional interest in this area, particularly as central banks move from analog towards digital. Without continued bold action, however, the UK risks falling behind other jurisdictions. Tokenization is not about crypto. What we're talking about is creating digital representations of real financial assets with ownership tracked on distributed ledgers or blockchains. This is for everything from equities to bonds to illiquid assets like real estate and private equity. It's not about crypto, but all of those assets are going to end up on blockchain. Later, those assets got to move cross borders. Think of, digital representations of certain types of assets like gold or precious metals or diamonds. And, that's where crypto will still get its value from tokenization. A quick thread: if anyone's bought QNT but never looked at what the project can do, here's a summary. This comes from crypto blogs. So the blockchain market is expected to grow to $39.7 billion by 2025 because it has potential to deliver immense benefits across almost any industry. Quant is at the forefront of its offering interoperability, tokenization, payments, and supply chain. Patent pending tech and experience, low-code tokenization engine, institutional grade tokens and interoperable, increase liquidity by reaching new ecosystems, open new capital pools offering fractionalized assets, fast settlement, and automation. But tokenization, the World Economic Forum says it's a $770 trillion market. Even if Quant was to capture just a small percentage of that, think about where the QNT token will be in the future. Capital markets, alternative asset digitization, commercial bank tokenized deposits, fund tokenization, bond issuance, carbon credits, and certificates. That carbon credits market is going to boom like nothing we've ever seen before. It's the same way the elites are going to use it against us like a tax system in the future. QNT is part of ISO TC 307 and other blockchain standards definition. Interoperable API suite helps build MDApps or integrate with existing tech stack. Embedded smart contract layer. Payment, CBDC payment acceptance, stablecoin payment acceptance, currency trials and micropayments, cross-border payments. Think about all those micropayments happening on a daily basis. Overledger platform, already working platform with priced offers to enterprise, pay-as-you-go, and subscription-based offers, not mentioned, but possible professional services, developer documentation and release notes. Quant is a founding member of INATBA, Engine, UK's Investment Association, Future of Finance, Change Network within financial services, Innovate Finance, an independent UK fintech community, ITSA, International Token Standardization Association. QNT is going to be the glue holding the entire network together. And people look at the price right now, around $100, and they think, wow, it's way overpriced. No, it's way underpriced right now. If you know what this cryptocurrency is capable of, you would continue stacking it while you still can. After Watcher Guru tweets this, just in, Twitter receives first 3 money transmitter licenses for payment services in the US. Take a listen to this right here.
is securing streaming data processes. You think about all the data that Twitter produces every second. Well, how do you secure that? How do you put that on a distributed ledger technology? You have to rethink the entire architecture.
Ways to do payments using an existing platform like Twitter.
An example with Twitter.
They're talking about doing payments using an existing platform like Twitter. And all of a sudden, Twitter receives first 3 money transmitter licenses for payment services in the US. That is not happening by coincidence. Introducing Hyperledger Cacti, a multifaceted pluggable interoperability framework. Now, people are talking about this as the QNT killer because people still don't understand what's going on yet. So I'm going to try to explain it right here. First, you got to take a listen to what they're saying, the language used by Hyperledger here, because it talks about exactly what QNT is.
Amazing. So how do you see this interoperability between, let's say, the Hyperledger products? Right, you said, okay, Fabric has some interoperability with EVM, but Bezu is the one that's EVM it's more EVM compatible. But how are the other Hyperledger products with related to interoperability between them?
Yeah, so we here at the Hyperledger Foundation understood early on that it wasn't going to be one blockchain to rule them all, right? We knew that there was going to be different approaches, but that essentially these are networks of networks, right? And that especially in the corporate enterprise space, companies need to participate in multiple networks, right? Let's say a supply chain and trade finance network. So how do you go about moving those assets from network to network and doing it to the core of the principles of blockchain, right? So that there's no double spending and all that. So early on in 2020, there was actually a lab that was started with Accenture and Fujitsu. And that lab then became a project, and it's called Hyperledger Cacti. Today, it's called Hyperledger Cacti. It has multiple contributions by Accenture. IBM also did a major contribution to Cacti last year with a lab that they had, which is called Weaver. And there are just 2 weeks ago, R3 did a contribution specific to Corda called Harmonia, and it's currently in the labs as well. So R3, for those of you who don't know, R3 has a project called Corda that is also used in a lot of financial services use cases as well. And if you think about a lot of these networks, they say a fabric to Corda, right? A fabric to Corda network. Those connectors have actually been built and have been part of Hyperledger Cacti for a long time. So you can connect Fabric to Corda, or you can connect Fabric to Quorum, or you can connect Fabric to Bezu, or you can...
What she's actually talking about is a massive network connecting together. And did you take notice how she said not one blockchain to rule them all, but multiple blockchains working together? And that's what we're going to see happen in the future. And even the white paper, it shows right here, Quant's networks over Ledger. It's already tied in, built into Cacti. But right away, people in the crypto space, they get all up in arms and they start saying, this is going to kill QNT. There's no need for QNT in the future. Quant Network's not even going to be involved. But that's why I always show you the facts. Because people, right away, they get impatient or they think that the sky is falling. And all of a sudden, people sell on news like that. You really need to know what you're holding. And again, like I said earlier in this video, the World Economic Forum believes that $770 trillion in assets will be tokenized in the future. And I still think Quant is going to capture a lot of that $770 trillion. But now let's talk about the BIS. So the BIS, International Settlement Project Rosalind, tested by BIS and BOE. The BIS approves QNT's technology and will use it for all their CBDC systems around the world. If you can't see it, you don't know enough. CBDCs are just one use case for Quant's Overledger. It's so much bigger than just CBDCs. But that's all the talk right now because people got caught up in that back in 2022 as things were building out. And QNT is going to be tied to all of it, and so is XRP. And I'm going to show you right now how those two are going to work together as well. Take a listen to this.
With all that in mind, how do we deal with this issue of exchange rates and interoperability? How do we get these digital currencies to really just talk to each other?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think when we talk about interoperability, we can see it at least in 3 different levels. So the first level is how we manage domestic interoperability. So how we generate this digital currency solution and make this speak with the other things that are out there in a little bit in the idea of generating a platform so that everyone can connect to that platform and take advantage of the huge network externalities that we can get out of there. The second level is how do we manage cross-border transactions, even within the same currency, and that presents a certain level of challenges there. But when we talk about cross-currency and cross-border, then we face a completely difficult and different environment, and we can see 3 dimensions here. One is the technical dimension, so how we manage to get a system that speaks in a certain cryptographic language to speak with another that speaks another slightly different language. So that is one level of complexity. We need to get the technologies to speak to each other. The messaging element is fundamental. The second dimension, which is much more complicated to solve, so that one, the first one was the easy one, okay? And there is a lot of money that is being put in terms of trying to solve these technical issues of interoperability. Now, the second one is more complicated. It has to do with liquidity. So imagine that you have a pair of currencies for which there is not a complementary demand. You need to go and search for a third-party currency in order to make this settlement actually happen. And this really complicates things. So we need to put pieces of technology that can make more efficiency this use of liquidity so that more transactions can be settled. The third dimension, which is even more difficult than the previous one, is how do we manage to get homogeneity in terms of the policy requirements on different countries. And this becomes even more complicated when we think about, for example, AML-CFT and principles-based policies, and when we think about risk-based policies. We can code things that are very clearly stated, but when we're talking about principles-based regulation, this thing becomes really complicated, especially in an environment, as Tom said, in which 110 nations might have 110 different ways of looking at this. So we need work in these 3 dimensions: technology, liquidity, and also, and more importantly, probably in the policy side of things. Think about AML-CFT, but also think about privacy, different.
So you could see exactly what the BIS is looking for, and they're putting a lot of money into this. And I played this video in an XRP video as well, because it shows how QNT and XRP will complement each other in the future. QNT providing that interoperability, XRP moving that money and providing liquidity at the same time. Now it's all starting to make sense, and it's very simple if you look at it in the right way, where we're going in the future. QNT is going to make a lot of people wealthy in the near future. Gilbert Verdian will become a Bill Gates Zuckerberg. You can't change my mind. Quant Network mass adoption cannot be achieved without QNT. They have solved a multi-trillion-dollar issue, making their solution the most valuable out of every project. You know, when you know what you hold, you cannot let people change your mind. Because, you know, I point out exactly what QNT is going to do in the future, and I show you how it's still very undervalued right now. But if you go on crypto Twitter, there's people calling QNT a scam. There's people saying it's way too expensive right now. The price is going to dip down under $50 again. I'm not seeing that happen either. But, you know, people will always try to shake other people out of their cryptocurrency. If you know what you hold when you hold QNT, you will never sell it. You will hold it until it hits those high numbers in the future. Because this is one cryptocurrency that has so much potential. And like I said in this video, $770 trillion market. QNT only needs to capture maybe 5 or 10% of that. But I still think it's going to capture much more. It's built for it. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.